Tag, you're extinct. So if you haven't already realized, our topic today is going to be extinctions and the different classifications of species. So unbeknownst to most ornithologists, these are people that study birds, the dodo was actually a very advanced species living alone quite peacefully until in the 17th century it was annihilated by men, rats, and dogs, as usual. So if you're wondering, how did the dodo become extinct? So Mauritius was colonized by the Dutch, who overhunted the bird for food. They damaged its forest habitat and introduced other species like pigs, cats, and rats that eventually ate the dodo's young and eggs. So within 80 years, the dodo was extinct entirely as a result of the activities of humans. If we're thinking about the role of humans, back in the day, about 8000 BC to 1600 AD, one species would go extinct every 1,000 years, then it turned into one species every 4 years, and now it's at that point where it's one species every 30 minutes. So within a 75-minute class, about 2 species goes extinct within that time frame. So extinctions occurred way before humans existed, but they were due to different causes. So for example, 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs went extinct because of some massive catastrophe. The theory is that there was an asteroid that crashed into the Earth, which caused a lot of dust that blocked out the sunlight, and there was also volcanic eruptions, and that created new environments that were not fit for the dinosaurs, causing them to all go extinct. Other causes of extinctions would be climate change, so an inability of an organism to cope with heat or cold, competition, so competition between new species, they're competing for food with the idea of the survival of the fittest, and now with human activities, that's the major cause of extinction today. So just to recap, the causes of extinction would be human activities, climate change, competition, and catastrophe. So there is an effect to extinctions. The main effect is that there is a decrease of biodiversity, and it creates a domino effect where if one species is affected, then it affects a whole bunch of other species that are connected to it within the food web. So an example would be sea otters and urchins. So I urge you to Google that. So Google the interactions between sea otters and urchins and what's the relationship between the two. Humans have had an impact on the environment. For example, the bald eagle was affected by the introduction of DDT, which is an insecticide pesticide. So the eagles, they reside near water bodies, and the runoff from farmlands cause an increase of DDT in the water. So if you recall the concepts of bioaccumulation and biomagnification, bioaccumulation being an increase of a toxin in an organism, in this example, the increase of DDT within an organism, and then biomagnification, meaning the spread of a toxin within a food chain or food web. So in this example, DDT, bioaccumulates within the zooplankton. Then it, due to biomagnification, it gets spread to the small fish, then spread to the larger fish, and eventually the fish-eating birds. And so your DDT concentration increases as you go up each of the trophic levels. The bald eagles were unable to breed, and when they were nesting, they would end up crushing their eggs because the eggs were not strong enough to sustain their weight. But fortunately, due to the ban of DDT and the reintroduction of bald eagles and nest protection sites, the bald eagles of the Great Lakes have slowly recovered. So even though we have had that negative effect on them with the introduction of DDT, we can make the changes so that way their populations can be more sustainable. The next thing we're going to go through would be different terms used to describe species at risk. The first would be extinct. Extinct species are those that no longer exist. So for example, the thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger or wolf, it was last caught in 1933 and died 3 years later in a zoo in Australia. Then you have extirpated species. These are species that are no longer found in a part of the world, so they're locally extinct, but they can be found in others. So for example, the grizzly bear is no longer found in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, but it can be found in Alberta and BC. Endangered would be species that are close to extinction, like the giant panda. Vulnerable, last but not least, vulnerable species. These are species that are at risk due to low numbers at the outer area of its range. So for example, the gray fox. they're beginning to return to southern Ontario, but they need woodlands to survive. And so if we continue developing, then we're going to see their numbers decline because their numbers will be lower around that outer range. Your task would be to make the notes on the information presented, so either watch the video again, or kudos to you if you have been taking notes as you've been watching. And also, you need to Google at least 2 different species that are at risk, describe their habitat, explain reasons for their decline, and give suggestions as to what humans can do to help.